Hello and welcome to today's Logistics Management and Supply Chain Management Review podcast. My name, of course, is Michael Levans, and I'm Group Editorial Director for Peerless Media's Supply Chain Group, which includes Logistics Management and Supply Chain Management Review magazines. And I'll be your moderator for today's episode, where we're going to digging into the benefits of a GRI impact analysis. And ultimately, we're going to help organizations get a better handle on managing parcel costs. Now, today, most shippers are realizing that the parcel marketplace is really kind of subtly nuanced, right? In many cases, capacity demands have fallen and as e-commerce growth levels have kind of eased, but yet shippers are remain frustrated with exponentially increasing prices. And to no one's surprise, the big two carriers raised rates for 2024, announcing an identical 5.9% general rate increase. Now, it was smaller than recent increases, but make no mistake, it's going to drive up the cost of doing business for millions of shippers as well as their customers. Well, today we're going to help parcel shippers get a handle on the current parcel shipping environment and the challenges it's created. And then we're going to explore the benefits that a GRI impact analysis can bring to your parcel shipping operations. And to help us along that path today, I'm joined by Josh Dunham. And Josh is co-founder of Reveel, and Reveel is a parcel shipping intelligence provider. Josh, welcome. We're thrilled to have you today.
Likewise. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. You got it. Absolutely. So Josh, we like to, sort of start by, setting the table, right? I mean, we're all feeling it right now. A lot of our parcel shipper readers are feeling it, but I want to get your take on, the current state of parcel shipping from your perspective, your unique perspective in this space. What are you seeing overall here as we roll into 2024 in terms of parcel?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up what we call peak season, which is essentially
Mm-hmm.
think of it as the holiday time where volumes typically kind of shoot up for a lot of different businesses.
Yep.
And what we heard when we were discussing and interviewing some of our larger retail customers is that they actually had a better peak season
Mm-hmm.
than they were originally expecting.
Yep.
But coming into 2024, they have lower Q1 and Q2 forecasts. So
Mm-hmm.
they are expecting some sort of downturn
Yep.
from economic condition perspective.
Yep.
I would say another thing that we're seeing, kind of a trend that's ongoing, is, and you mentioned it, I think, in your intro, but volumes have come down, and
Yep.
thus carrier capacity has come up. And as a
Mm-hmm.
byproduct of that, the carriers are very, very willing to negotiate right now, and we're seeing
Yep.
some really incredible pricing come through from the carriers. So great time to
Mm-hmm.
negotiate for a shipper.
Yep.
And then I would say, lastly, I would say a trend that we saw over the course of probably this past year is that shippers are now becoming more and more reliant on technology and data science than
Yep.
we've ever seen,
Yep.
historically.
Yep. And that's great to hear. 'Cause in this market, it tends to be slow to adopt, but those situations have put shippers in a position where they need to take those steps, and I love that. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the challenges, Josh, that we're seeing right now, right? So you just really nicely defined that current environment we're seeing. So what are some of the challenges, or would you say is there a single biggest challenge that this current environment has sort of created for parcel shippers?
Probably the largest challenge is going to be the economic uncertainty that we're kind of
Yep.
coming into in
Right.
24. As really as a byproduct of that economic uncertainty, businesses and shippers, they have to have accurate ways to forecast and predict
Hmm.
spend.
Right.
And they also have to have ways to manage and reduce costs.
Yep.
And an example of something that we've created to kind of help in that forecasting and budgeting is what we call a general rate increase impact analysis. Now, we
Hmm.
refer
Hmm.
to general rate increase as just GRI. So,
Hmm.
impact analysis is what we've created to help with that.
Yep. Yep. So can you familiarize us with a little bit? Can you explain what that GRI impact analysis is and why it holds significance for businesses, especially in the realm of shipping and in parcel shipping and specifically, obviously. But if you can kind of familiarize us with that, what is it? How does it work?
Absolutely. So you mentioned that the carriers came out with a rate increase. We like to
Yep.
joke around that nothing is certain except for death,
Yeah.
taxes, and a GRI, right? A general
Yep.
rate increase from the
I've been
carriers.
watching this market for over 20 years, and every year, yeah, you can set your watch.
Yep. So you mentioned both carriers announced the same increase coming into this year, 5.9%. But what you need to realize is that in reality, that 5.9% is just an average.
Right.
And what that average does not take into consideration is a specific shipper's profile. And it also doesn't take into consideration rule changes or surcharge increases.
Yeah.
So, what we found is that 5.9%, when we ran a macro level analysis, FedEx actually was an 8.17% increase and UPS was 7.72. So, what the GRI impact analysis actually does is it can determine for an individual shipper the exact increase that they're going to incur. And
Hmm.
obviously, this is going to help immensely with forecasting and budgeting.
Sure. Yep. So let's talk a little bit more about, Reveal's approach to this analysis. What would you say, sets your approach apart from other methods or solutions in the market?
Yeah, so we've essentially created the ability to run a package level detail when it
Yep.
comes to the rate increase. So what we've seen a lot in our industry, and what we see a lot of shippers do is say, okay, well, the carriers announced a 5.9% average. I should just probably take that average and bake that in
Yep.
to my expectation for the increase.
Hmm.
And we have some customers that are taking 11% increases. So if
Hmm.
you factored in an average of a 5.9% increase, you're going to just be way off when you start looking at the numbers here in
Right.
24. So that's really what sets us apart is the ability to actually run a model over your or over a shipper's shipping history to be able to
Hmm.
determine exactly what the rate increase is going to be. So there's no
Gotcha.
guessing, there's no averages. It's very accurate.
Gotcha. Takes the guesswork out for that long haul through that year of planning, et cetera. So, I mean, so that's terrific, Josh. You've set the table for us. You defined the challenges. It sounds like there's a solution right there for us. So let's talk a little bit more about the benefits. Can you kind of boil it down to like, so what specific benefits can shippers gain from conducting a GRI impact analysis with your team at Reveal?
Yeah, so on the surface, being able to accurately forecast and budget, as you kind of come into this next year, and then I would say on top of that, our impact analysis actually shows you down to the individual service, even down to individual weight breaks and surcharges where you're going to sustain the increases, so that you're
Hmm.
going to have a very good idea of knowing
Gotcha.
exactly where the extent of the increases are going to be. So full
Gotcha.
transparency and full
Full
visibility.
transparency. Yeah, full visibility. That's terrific. And that's, you mentioned at the outset, that's what a lot of parcel shippers did not have over the years. And now they're taking steps to gain it through these types of solutions. I think that's terrific. So I'm sure there's a lot of readers or a lot of readers, listeners out there right now. They're liking what they're hearing, right? So they're probably thinking, hey, what are some of the challenges that maybe shippers are facing when addressing, these GRI related considerations, and how does the team at Reveal, help shippers in overcoming some of those challenges as they're going into this process?
Yeah, I mean, the largest challenge is just not having any idea what increase you're going to sustain. Is it 5.9? Is it
Right.
11%? Is it somewhere in between?
Yep.
And
Right.
it's just not knowing. And as a byproduct of that, what we've found in doing a lot of our interviews is that it's really difficult for a shipper to run this type of analysis on their own. Data
Yep.
sets are too large. There's really no way for them to actually re-rate on a package level.
Right.
So it's just kind of one of those things that shippers are kind of left in the dark.
Hmm. Yep. So you know what, Josh, shippers and especially our readers on logistics management, supply chain management review, they love to draw sort of parallels to their peers, right? So they might be thinking about going in this direction to get a better handle on this data. Can you share sort of a short, maybe sort of an example or a short case study where Reveal's GRI impact analysis has really made a positive impact on a client's business?
Yeah, one comes to mind pretty quickly. We've got a real large furniture manufacturer. I'd love to name them, but we've got some NDAs,
Sure,
as
of
you can
course.
imagine, in
Yep.
place. But large furniture manufacturer, and they had some pretty significant increases coming into the
Hmm.
last rate increase, specifically around additional handling and oversize.
Yep.
And we were able to actually see that in our GRI impact analysis. And what we did with that was targeted those specific areas and helped the shipper actually go back to the carrier and ask for increased discounts in those areas that they were going to have high impact. And it
Right.
ended up resulting in about a couple $1 million of savings over the course of
Wow.
this past year.
Wow, data that gave that shipper tools to go back and save. I mean, that's an eye opener. That's terrific stuff. Now, looking ahead, Josh, how do you envision the role of a GRI impact analysis evolving? Right, what advancements or developments can you expect in the field and moving forward, maybe over the next year? What are some of the things that are happening there, evolving there for you?
I'd say the biggest thing that's evolving is the role of technology in the shipper's business. So when you think about GRI impacts and other ways that shippers would get visibility into their parcel spend, it was
Hmm.
through consultants. Right
Yep.
now, for specific to the GRI, this is something that a shipper would go to a consultant, ask them to conduct some sort of analysis, and it would take weeks to produce, if
Yep.
not months. And
Right.
consultants, this time of year are typically bogged down with this type of analysis, and it just, they get backlogged. And
Right.
I would say where the difference is moving forward is, through the advances in technology, our technology has the ability to instantaneously do this. A shipper can
Hmm.
get this instantaneously without having to go to a consultant and incur that high cost.
Right.
And ultimately, it's through the technology empowering the shipper directly with this information. And then what a shipper actually has the ability to do with this information is much like what we did with this large furniture manufacturer, is target very specific areas that they know they're impacted the most by
Hmm.
this GRI, and go to the
Yep.
carrier and ask for help, in those
Yep.
specific areas. It doesn't mean that you have to go through an entire agreement overhaul, but you can tweak, one, two, three specific areas where you're
Right.
incurring the largest brunt of the increase, and
Sure.
ask the carriers to sharpen their pencil, ask for increased incentive
Absolutely.
in those areas.
Yep, yep. And that's fantastic, right? You're going to get, again, that visibility, that transparency that you never had before, where you could never have those conversations before unless you have that information in front of you. That's dynamite. Now, we do have just a couple minutes left, Josh. We do need to wrap up. So you can kind of leave us with a couple final thoughts, a little bit of insight or advice regarding the importance of the GRI impact analysis, and also to maybe just a little bit of advice or to help push shippers sort of over the fence, so to speak, to move in this direction. What's some of that final insider advice you could leave with our shipper audience today?
Yeah, the final advice is really the role of technology, and
Yep.
advanced data science is. There's been a lot of breakthroughs, and for shippers that haven't quite adopted technology to help them make strategic business decisions in their
Mhm.
business, I mean, you're just going to get left behind.
Right.
Really at the end of the day. So technology and the importance of it, it's more important than ever to have in your business.
Yep.
You've got to know the impact of the GRI coming into this year. I can't tell you how busy we get
Yep.
as companies start, looking at their financials, at the end of this first month of the year, and then of
Mhm.
course at the end of the first quarter, and
Mhm.
seeing how far off their budgeting and their forecasts were because of the rate increase. So you've got to
Yep.
know what that is coming into this year.
Yep. Outstanding and great advice to wrap up. Again, Josh Dunham, co-founder of Reveel. Josh, great conversation today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and have a terrific day. And thanks. I'm going to thank everybody for attending today or listening to us today. I hope everybody has a terrific day. Take care.